people can sit there and be like, 20 years from now, what if I'm just playing in a bar? If I end up singing in a bar in 20 years, I bet I had one hell of a good time leading to that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Travis Makes Friends. Today, I am making friends with Whitney Miller. Whitney, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. I feel like we've already made friends with each other,
That's
but now
true.
we're just continuing to make
the
more of that.
friendship. Yeah.
Yes.
Just continuing to build the friendship.
We're deepening the friendship.
Because the last time that we were here, we were supposed to do an interview.
I was gonna say we did.
Yeah. We were supposed to do an interview, and somebody may have had a few drinks too many the night before.
Which is not me.
And it wasn't you, and it wasn't Jackie sitting on the chair over here. It was me. So,
although technically Jackie, I did have a few too many drinks the night before. I just didn't tell you guys when I got there.
You just still showed up is the difference.
Yeah.
And technically I was there.
You were?
I was.
You
I
showed up.
I sat there with my head in my hands. Like
God, hangovers are the worst. I hate hangovers. I really wish they didn't exist because I do like to indulge in alcoholic beverages.
I hear that. Yeah, I think I still went out that night as well. But the thing is, when you're a parent and you have two small kids at home and you are out somewhere for 3 days without that, and they stay home with the grandparents, it's like, you got to rally.
Right.
Because when's the next time?
Exactly. You got to take full advantage of that.
Right. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, I think I still went out that night and still drank.
Well, I'm impressed. I mean, Nashville's the place to do it. Let me tell you, I moved here from Austin, and I thought Austin was a drinking town. Nope. This is Nash Vegas for a reason, and everyone just goes crazy all the time.
Even more so than Austin.
Way more.
Really?
Way more.
Wow.
And I had friends who ran clubs and big events like that out in Vegas and New York and Miami, and then they're like, wait, I moved to Austin and everyone's just drinking like crazy. So I thought I was primed. I got this, Nashville. No, like I said when I walked in, Nashville always wins. Yeah. Always.
Well, we'll put that to the test.
Okay.
Today and tomorrow.
Good luck out there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll get some recommendations from you. Okay, so I know you got a ton of stuff you're working on right now. Before we jump into kind of the past and build some context, let's do a quick plug at the beginning here. You just came out with your newest single.
Yes.
Right? How's that been going? Talk to me about that process.
It's great. Yeah, this is my second single. It's called 15 Minutes of Fame. I wrote that over the summer with 3 girls that I met here in Nashville. I've been here just for a year now. Okay. And so, trying to find my tribe and my community. And that's really important being a songwriter here in town, is finding people who you trust to write with and continuing to write with them as much as possible, basically. And so these girls thankfully trusted me to rent a little cabin out in the woods and just write for 3 days straight. And it was one of the songs that we wrote while we were out there, and amongst many others that I'll be releasing this year too. But it's called 15 Minutes of Fame. And Kelly Seidel, I was sitting there with her, and we had some wine in us and having a good time. And she's like, man, I have this title called 15 Minutes of Fame. And I'm kind of thinking maybe when you date somebody and you see them go to the same bar, and they're just kind of taking you along for the same ride, or their new girl for the same ride that you went on. And I was like, shoot, do I got a story for you? Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And so we just started going back and telling stories about our exes and things that we went through. And that's the cool thing about songwriting, is that you just build something out of a little baby idea, and you have no idea where it's going to go or how it's going to turn out. And it was one of my favorite songs that we wrote that weekend. And that was, like I said, over the summer back in August. And we just released it last week, and People.com premiered it, which was awesome for me, particularly being my second musical thing I've ever done, period.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. What I love about your story, and now we're going to do the context building part, because that's my favorite part. What I love about your story is the constant reinvention. And you seem to never be, well, maybe not never be afraid to go do something different, but at least you don't let fear stop you from going and doing that thing, and doing it to its fullest extent. So let's rewind the clock
Okay.
Let's go all the way back in time. Let's say 9-year-old Whitney Miller. Where were you in the world? How did you grow up? Your parents, culture, all that stuff.
I grew up in South Texas, and my parents divorced when I was really young. I think like 6 months old or something. And so I never really knew them together. So my dad raised me. I had 2 brothers. I was constantly like on the water and hunting and just doing anything that my brothers would do sports-wise. So I think now thinking about it, maybe that's one of the reasons why I am so comfortable with just reinventing myself and trying new things, because anytime they would do something, I would just try it, and just give it a go.
You remember being afraid of anything back then, or like any of the sort of kind of more sports activities or anything like that?
I don't remember being afraid of anything. I mean, I remember being in gymnastics from an early age, like a competitive gymnastics team. We were sailing constantly. I started soccer when I was like 5 years old, and I was a figure skater as well, competitive figure skater.
Competitive figure skater?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm literally
In
Texas. Yeah, which is rare. Who did I compete against? You know what I mean? But it was basically like anything that I could compete and like challenge myself. I just loved that.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me. But, we're talking about 9-year-old Whitney. 10-year-old Whitney was told that she couldn't sing. And that's where this entire journey kind of started. And I used to put on all kinds of shows for my parents and my family, like in the living room, and I would have my dad sit on the couch and listen to me sing one song 5, 6, 7 different times and then tell me which one he liked the best. Like
the same song.
The same song.
Which performance did you enjoy the most?
Yeah, he's got to be like, oh, not this again. You know what I mean? But
I'm sure he enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, I think, probably.
As a dad.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah, you're a dad. See, if a kid told me to sit there and listen to them sing 10 times, I'd be like,
not somebody else's kid.
This is not going to work for me, bud.
Yeah.
But,
so then, who told you couldn't sing then?
Someone really close to me.
Really?
Someone really close to me, yeah. And I took that to heart. I was just like, oh, well, then I can't sing. And if I do sing, that means I'm not going to be loved, and they won't love me. And so from that day, never sang again in front of anyone. And
wow.
I would sing by myself, but my biggest fear was anyone potentially hearing me. Like if I lived in this apartment, I wouldn't sing just in case someone was walking by outside and could hear me singing to myself. It became like a really strong phobia of mine.
A story that took deep root inside of your mind.
Exactly. And I had no idea how to get rid of it. And I really thought that I was going to go to my deathbed with it laying dormant there.
Did you want to
badly
keep doing it?
Badly. It was the one thing that I thought about 1,000 times a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I just couldn't do it.
Even, would you think about that when you were fully throwing yourself into other things as well?
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow.
I really think because I was, I was constantly competing in sports, and I did really well at that. I was Miss Texas. I was Miss United States. I went into fighting. I did, hosted this big podcast. I'd done all of these things, but I think it was in order to try to scratch the itch of music. And I'm like, at some point, I'm going to forget about
scratch that itch.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping that at some point I'm going to forget about wanting to sing. Because I accomplished so much in this one area that singing to me is nothing anymore, right? No. It just got louder and louder and louder, and I finally had to do something about it.
Yeah, it was like the other things just magnified the desire. They didn't make it silent.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Why do you think you finally were like, all right, I'm ready?
I think it was a long journey. In my last relationship, we were doing all kinds of plant medicines and on this big healing and spiritual journey. And of course, singing and the fear of that would always come up. And my ex at the time he knew that this is something that I wanted to do. I don't think he knew how deep it really ran for me because no one knew. It was something I couldn't even write in my journal because that means I was admitting to myself.
Acknowledging the existence.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
And I wasn't ready for it to be that real. But when you're, at this point, 17 ayahuasca ceremonies down, at some point it's going to come up. You can't run from it, right? Like, so I think it was just, working with different coaches and sitting with different plant medicine ceremonies and working with different therapists and all of these things. And finally, at one of my last ayahuasca ceremonies, in the ceremony, whether this is real or not, it showed me that if I didn't sing, if I didn't use that part of me and I kept repressing it, that it would manifest as a disease in my gut and I would die. And I remember just trying to puke it up, like, no, please, I don't want to sing, I don't want to sing, I don't want to sing. Like, just get it out of me, like, let me puke up singing so I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. And so the very next day, I went into the sharing circle with 25 people and sang for the first time in front of people.
Wow. Okay. So this is the first time since you were 10 years old that you actually sang in front of people.
Yeah.
What did you sing?
Angel from Montgomery. It's originally by John Prime. Bonnie Raitt did a cover of it, but my favorite is Susan Tedeschi, who sings it.
Why that song? Any significance or just something that came to
I just
mind?
loved it. It just felt good to me. And I just love I love Bonnie Raitt, you know what I mean? And I just like it.
Everyone
was in tears. Everyone was bawling, crying. My brother was there, which was a very cool experience for him. And everyone also was just like, wait, but you can sing. Like, this is so bizarre. Like, it's one thing.
That's got to be the overwhelming reaction, right? 'Cause,
yeah.
Like, you want people to follow their dreams and everything like that. But then, like, if somebody's like, I want to be a singer, and then they start singing and they're like,
Maybe
I want to be supportive here.
Yeah, but I don't know how to do that.
Maybe you should produce music.
Exactly. Like, there's so many other different things you can do in the industry. Yeah. Right. And that's funny that you say that, because there were multiple people in the group that came up to me afterwards and they're like, when you said that you were about to sing, we didn't know if it was going to be like terrible or really
Everybody's
good.
Stomach dropped.
Yeah. But thankfully no one walked out, and it was really like a big emotional experience for all of us.
Okay, so when was that?
Oh man, I'm really bad with dates, but I would say like 6 years ago.
Okay, wow. Okay, so this was still when you were living in Austin.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long after that until you were consistently getting out there and singing or actually practicing writing music or?
2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So it took a couple of years. For
sure, because it was still something I was afraid of. Just because I took that one step didn't mean it was like, whatever, I'm good now. Yeah, it was, I had to retrain my nervous system that I wasn't going to die by using my voice in front of people.
Where did you start? Like, in terms of, you start just going to...
I hired a vocal coach.
Okay.
I hired a vocal coach to where I could just only sing in front of them, which was still absolutely petrifying to me. Mm-hmm. I had to take beta blockers just to go to my vocal lesson, which is so insane to me still. And he just like worked with me on it, thankfully. And I then at this simultaneously, this is like when COVID started happening, I started coming up here to Nashville. And just to see a friend of mine, because I was going through that big breakup and I wanted to come here and get out of Austin and see a new spot. And when you walk into Nashville, you can't get away from music.
Yeah, no kidding.
You cannot get away from it.
Even if you try.
I mean, start running and all you're going to do is run into more live music or a musician or a songwriter or a producer.
Any day of the week.
Any day of the week. Your valet guy, the people who pick up your trash, like... Everyone is a musician here. And all of your favorite record labels are right down on Music Row, CMA's here, CMT's here. So it was just a very shocking experience for me to walk into basically the manifestation or like an actual vision of what my dream life is. Yeah. You know? And
it could either be a version of heaven or a version of hell, depending on where you are in your mind.
Yes, exactly. And thankfully for me at that time, I was just kind of like star-eyed to it of, this is a life that I could have if I choose it. And funny enough, on that trip, my vocal coach called me and said, hey, I want to do this thing for YouTube, or will you come in and sing in a studio? And I'm like, no. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't say that. That's what I was saying in my head, but I was like, Yes.
Depends on how many Xanax.
I will be there. Yeah, exactly. How messed up can I be? And I said yes. And that's kind of been my mantra through this whole thing is just say yes and then worry about the consequences later. Like, I know that I'm going to be able to take care of myself and work through my fear. Just say yes to it and then we'll figure it out. And I said yes to it. And a couple months later, I walked into a studio for the very first time in my life and sang a song in front of 10 people that were in the studio, and one of them happened to be Matt Noveski, who plays bass for Blue October. And he was the owner of the studio. And he was like, I'm not looking to take on any artist, but there's something here if you want my help. I'm willing to help you.
Wow. That's a big
All
compliment.
I had to do was say yes. And welcome to my mantra. I said yes. And it has completely changed my life 180 degrees. Like, my life looks absolutely completely different than it did from that moment I said yes to how it does now.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm living my truth. And I'm not stopping. Something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I started writing music for the very first time. I started singing in front of people. I started, standing on my own 2 feet and realizing, oh wait, Whitney can do this on her own. I moved out of Texas. I've never lived outside of Texas my entire life until last year when I moved here to Nashville.
That's wild.
Yeah.
There's a statement that Tom Segura said in one of his stand-ups. I'm a big fan of Tom. I love his stuff. He's hilarious. But he throws in like little personal development things every once in a while if you catch him, when he's talking. And during one of his stand-up routines, I think it's on Netflix, one of his specials, he said something like, if you're doing something that you hate right now, that I encourage you to pursue your dreams. He was like, because even if you don't achieve what you sought to achieve, I think there's much more fulfillment in the pursuit of what you want than in doing something that you don't want.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really insightful to say, because a lot of people will let the fear prevent them from doing it, where, they move to Nashville and they produce some songs and then they're like, but what if in 20 years from now, I'm just singing at a local bar? And it's
right.
Like, so what if in 20 years from now, you're doing something you're passionate about and you love and people are enjoying it? Like, what if that happens? This doesn't seem like a really bad case scenario.
Right, exactly.
Now you're going to freaking FedEx and like driving the truck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a better case scenario for you than doing something you actually enjoy doing, that fuels you up, that makes you excited about life again.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's so underrated, because when you're in this mental space of I'm doing what I enjoy doing, and everything, when you have that mental shift from scarcity to abundance, everything looks different. The world is all of a sudden a place of opportunity, rather than a place that's trying to hold you back and keep you down.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, now you've gotten a lot of opportunity. Doors have opened for you. And it's not because people are just randomly opening new doors. It's probably just because you can see the doors that are potentially being opened, because you're actually walking down the path.
Exactly. I'm allowing it to happen, and I now know, because my story is so different. I didn't grow up doing music. I didn't grow up and performing and doing all these things that pretty much everyone else in the music industry did.
Yeah. They all sing in church at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't do that either, and so for me, it's like, I now know exactly what it's like to live in that scarcity mindset for, at that, 25 years. So I know what it feels like to not pursue your dreams every single day. So every day that I get a chance to pursue my dream is a win. I'm already winning.
Exactly. That's the point. Like, you don't have to become Carrie Underwood to put a W in the column.
No, but I'm going to.
Yeah. I don't doubt it.
I'm at least going to try.
Yeah, well, 100%. And if your second song has already been featured on People, then I think that you're, trending in the right direction.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing, is you mentioned, people can sit there and be like, 20 years from now, what if I'm just playing in a bar? My mind goes there too. I mean, I couldn't sleep 2 days ago, and I was just running through my head about all the things that could go wrong and why I shouldn't be doing this. It's a stupid idea, and I'm way behind, and I suck, and your mind starts to take you to those places. But it's like, if I end up singing in a bar in 20 years, I bet I had one hell of a good time, like leading to that. Exactly. And like, what experiences do I get to, you know, remember at that point?
You'll have more fulfillment in that pursuit than you would succeeding at something else that you didn't even want to do. Exactly,
because I've done that, and it's great, but it's not that great.
Yeah. What do you think the I guess underlying principle or common denominator has been for you to be able to go from, you know, competing in sports, doing MMA, you know, winning Miss USA, now singing and music, and you've continually reinvented yourself and been able to rise to the top of whatever field that you've been in. What do you look at as being the common denominator there? Because it's clearly not time involved, is my point, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, just put in the work, put in the time, you know, and all that's true, but it's not exclusively true, or else you wouldn't have a story like yours, where you can move into different fields and find success in a shorter period of time compared to other people who've maybe been doing it for twice or 3 times or 5 times as long as you've been doing it.
Yeah.
You have a kind of a formula for that? Or?
I don't know if I have a formula, but I think I just chase fulfillment, you know, and I had a conversation with somebody who looked at my path and was like, well, don't you think that you're just not sticking with one thing, you know, and like you just get bored and maybe you should just stick with something? And I'm like, I mean, I could, but that doesn't sound fun to me. I don't want to do that, you know, like this is my life.
Thanks, Mr. Accountant.
Yeah, seriously. Let me just sit here and I'll stick with one thing my whole life.
Master QuickBooks, let me know how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, at one point I was like, oh my God, is something wrong with me? Like, because I can't stick with something. And it's not that I can't stick with something, it's that I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's okay to move and reinvent yourself over and over again if you want to. Sure. If that's what's going to make you happier, great, then go for it. And I think when you're acting from a place of happiness and joy and excitement for your life and what you're doing, things happen more easily for you. You're not like, it's not like this grind and this work to try to make it happen. It just kind of like easily seemingly so easily happens a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't like, I often talk with people where I think that is probably the best plan of action for them, where it's like you're opportunity hopping right now. You should just pick something and just go through the pain of learning it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to put in the calluses, aren't willing to get the calluses. You know, it's like when you start playing guitar, everything hurts. And you can't hold down the strings, and you try to strum one chord and it's like buzzing and nothing sounds good.
Yeah.
But if you do it for like 4 months, you get calluses on your fingers, and then like, oh, I can switch to another chord now, and things are a little bit easier. You know what I mean? But that callus period is a difficult time, no matter what the skill set is. And I think a lot of people give up before then. But in your case, you clearly weren't that, because you got good at whatever it is that you were doing. It's just that you wanted to switch to something different because it was new and exciting. I relate to that in a lot of ways, and me and Jackie have had those conversations, because I've done 16 different things in the last like 9 years. You know what I mean? And it's exactly that. It's like, well, there's not much else for me to do here. I don't know.
That's the thing, right?
If I continue doing it, I know how that's going to end up, and I don't want to end up there. So why am I going to continue doing it? I want to do something different now. Yeah, I relate to that completely.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think like, because I really think being an athlete has helped me a lot. Like from being, you know, like I said, I started sports when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
My entire family, my dad was a professional sailor. My mom was a professional windsurfer. My brother is literally the most athletic person you'll ever meet. He broke a record for bunny hopping and like was on the Texas diving team. And like my entire family is so incredibly...
What a good mixture of random activities that is too. Like, it's not like we all played football or whatever, or golf.
It's literally like we're just going to try all the things, you know, and see how it goes.
Is this you 4? Brother, mom, dad?
I have 2 half brothers, and then my mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the same mom, not the same dad. And then my other brother, Trey, who lives out in San Francisco, does like these insane bike rides that I can't even explain it to you, because it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but they're like 1,000-mile bike rides through the fucking mountains, and he's like Arctic ice climbing and like all this. It's so crazy to me. So, but I really think being an athlete has helped me, particularly, you know, take that same mindset into trying different things, because it's that callous period you talk about. And so now with music, I do feel like I have catching up to do. And I think that helps me a little bit, because I'm like guns a-blazing.
Chip on your shoulder.
Oh, for sure. And like, I don't have time to wait.
Right.
I'm not 22 years old coming up with a record deal. Right. You know, it's like, I have to make this happen now. And I've taken, you know, the mindset of athletics into my vocals. I train vocals 5-6 times a week, whereas a lot of people once a month. Yeah. Maybe they don't even do vocals.
Right.
I have her do my warm-ups with me. I go and do 2-hour vocal lessons in person with her. I take online courses when it comes to the music business. I'm just allowing myself to sit there and be like, if I were to hire a coach on what's the best way to be the best athlete in the music industry, that's what I'm doing. So I'm hiring all the right people to make sure I'm just supporting myself and doing it in the best way that I know how.
Yeah, you want to win still.
I want to win.
It's still that competitive desire.
Exactly.
Yeah. The nice thing in this business is like, to win in this business, everybody else doesn't have to lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We all get to win.
It's an abundance-based business.
Exactly.
Like, you can listen to 43 artists on your playlist. It doesn't, you know,
it's so
not
true.
Just one person, you know?
Yeah. It's not like I have to take somebody out to take their spot.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. It can be a lot more collaborative in that sense. It sounds like you've been that way with the friends that you've made here.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Nashville is, you know, they say it's a music place, and it really is, but it's really for songwriters. Like, you come here and you come to write music, not necessarily to play music. Musicians don't make any money playing in Nashville because there's so many of us here. If you want to go make money on the road, you got to go somewhere else.
Sure.
But if you want to have access to the best writers in the world at your fingertips, they're right here in Nashville. You go to any bar and you just run into somebody and they have multiple #1 hits on the radio without a doubt.
Wow.
You know, and so it's a great place to meet people like that who are all doing the same thing as you. And most of the time, everyone's really accepting and welcoming because they've been you before.
Yeah, sure. How do you view, I mean, the whole topic of the show is really about relationships and about how your environment can change the person that you are, and the people that you get around can either make you a better version of yourself or a worse version of yourself. And there's probably nowhere in between those two, right?
Yeah.
They're either making you better or they're making you worse. There's not any neutral relationships.
That's a really interesting way to put it, because I don't think you ever hear it that way.
Yeah,
right?
Well, because it's painful to think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard when you have people that you care about and you love, and you look at them and you go like, well, they don't make me better, but they don't make me worse.
Right.
Just telling yourself that they don't make you worse. You know they don't make you better. That means they're making you worse.
They're making you worse.
There's no position in life where you stand still. You're going backwards or you're going forwards. You know?
Damn. Yeah, I needed that. That's good.
So my question to you is...
Who's making me worse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need some names.
Okie dokie.
I'll text them for you right
I
now.
have no friends.
As an adult, and Jackie and I talk about this a lot, it's hard to make good friends with people who are in similar life stages, who have similar goals or desires, and who have the ability to sharpen you and turn you into a better version of yourself. How do you go about making friends with people? How do you put yourself in situations to meet the types of people that you've been meeting and write music with them and have fun with them and go out and things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting making friends as adults.
It's weird.
Too, you know? It's very odd.
It's super weird for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why it is, but I will make friends with the wall, you know, like, so put me in a room and I'm going to have friends, you know what I mean? And it's just because I feel like I'm truly interested in other people. Yeah. You know, I truly enjoy just saying hi to somebody.
Would you identify as an extrovert?
Yes, okay. 100%. Yeah. 100%. But here in Nashville, I mean, I kind of have a little bit of a built-in community because we all play together at the same bars. A lot of the times you'll just go and support people. And if you have...
But when you moved to Nashville, you didn't have any of that.
I didn't have any of that.
So how did you get that?
That's a really good question. I think, you know what I did? I started sliding in some DMs.
There you go.
Yeah. I saw people who I liked their music. I liked what they were doing. They seemed cool. And I said, hey, I'm brand new to Nashville. I'm in the music industry. I'd love, if you have any shows coming up, I'd love to come check it out. Or I'm trying to write with as many people as I can. Are you interested in setting up a write? And most of the time, either they would just ignore you and be like, I don't know who this person is, which is fine. Don't take it personally, you know?
Exactly.
But
they're not going to reach out to you.
Right. You have to go out there and make the effort to find people and do that. And so that's really that's what it was. I just started reaching out to people. Then I would go to shows, meet people. We'd start doing writes. And then, like we just talked about, you have to put the effort in. There's times that I don't want to go do anything.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm in the part of my career where I am in that callousing part. I am like, I got to grind. Yeah. I got to go out when I don't want to go out. I got to go talk to people when I don't want to go talk to people, you know, and it's just about showing up for myself and for other people because I want them to show up for me too. And I know how hard this business is. And I know how important it is when your friend shows up to your show, like how cool that is.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say it that way because there's so many people that I see now talking about like the power of saying no. And I don't know, a couple years ago, I was like, I never understand this because at the time I just wasn't getting enough opportunity. So like what you're talking about is like, I was in the point of the career path that I was on where I was like, I don't have the luxury of saying no.
Yeah.
It's like I said yes to anything.
Right.
Like, you want me to fly to New Jersey to speak to 12 people?
Heck yeah.
Like, I got to pay for it myself? All right, I'll be there.
I'm there.
You know what I mean? Like, the hotel is costing me more. You know, it's just like, I don't know what to do except for just say yes to every single thing that I can possibly say yes to.
Yeah.
You know, and then you finally get to a point where it's like, okay, now I got to start saying no because the opportunities are too much.
Yeah.
You know, but
how are you going to get to that point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take that advice way too soon. Is my point. They start saying no to things when they get too big for their britches before they actually should be. You know, they start saying no to all these things. They're like, oh, I'm above that.
I cannot do that.
And it's like, really, you've been above that for like 13 years now.
Right.
You know what I mean? When are you going to ever like step into that next version of you?
And you just never know. Like you never know who you're going to meet.
Absolutely. Yes. I deal with this a lot because obviously in my agency, we get people booked on podcasts, you know, and one of the biggest things that I come across is, especially with entrepreneurship space, is we have a lot of people that make good money and they're trying to, you know, now get into the branding themselves, do more podcasting and get out in front of people. I'm like, okay, well, we'll get you booked on, you know, these shows. And they're like, yeah, but I've never heard of those shows. It's like, okay, but nobody's ever heard of you.
Right.
So like, where do we go from
here?
Like, you can't get you booked on Rogan and Tim Ferriss tomorrow, man.
Right.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to do some of this stuff that maybe you feel right now might be beneath you. But like, if you feel that it's beneath you, then maybe we shouldn't work together anyway. Because
that's a good
point. I'm still going to do all the shows that you're saying no to. That's the difference. That's why I'm going to win long term because I'm still saying yes to all the ones that you're saying no to because you think they're beneath you, even though I've been doing this for 6 years and you just started doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you listen to all the, Gary Vaynerchuk says it all the time. You know, he went on thousands of podcasts as a guest that he had no business being on in terms of listenership or audience size, but doesn't matter. At some point, something's going to happen that's going to take you to the next level where you literally, like, legitimately do not have the time to do those things, which now he's at that point, obviously. But it took him a long time to get there, and he was never too big for his britches. Like, he was always willing to jump in and be like, hey, if I can make it happen, even though I'm in the back of a New York City cab on the way to my next meeting, I'll make it happen. I got my AirPods. It might be bad audio, but I'll do the show.
Whatever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at right now. Yeah. I'm in it.
And exactly what you said, too. You don't know if there's 7 people in the crowd. You don't know who that one person is in there, whose cousin is a producer for that other thing.
Exactly.
Who like, oh, I actually might have a contact for you. You just never know, you know.
I mean, the first show that I played here was in a Holiday Inn.
There you go.
You know, like I couldn't come here and act like I'm something because I am nothing here. I have no one. So you go and you play that Holiday Inn show.
Right. Well, that's huge props to you though, because you aren't starting from nothing in terms of everything else in your life. You've worked really hard a lot in a lot of different, you know, realms. And so for you to come in and be willing to start at the bottom at something that you know, were not proficient at or had not have not, made a name for yourself in yet, speaks to exactly why you're in the position that you're in now, because you were willing to start there. And I think people in the industry want to see that as well. They want to know that like you're willing to go earn your stripes.
Yeah.
That you're not just coming in and just like, oh, well, you're verified and have 100-something thousand followers and you have a big podcast and you think you're going to come into this space and just like win, but when they see you like at the bottom eating shit, just like everybody else was forced to eat shit when they got in the industry, they're like, cool.
We respect that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like we see you and here in Nashville, I mean, you're talking about relationships when it comes to business. I mean, I know Gary Vee talks about like the monetary value of relationships is basically, it's priceless.
Yeah,
like that's exactly what everything's built on. And here in Nashville, it's so based on relationships.
I imagine.
People will not put you on a writer's round at their bar with 20 people if they don't know you. And if you don't show up for their writers, you don't buy a beer at their bar, they don't, get out of here. You're nothing to us, It's interesting.
I feel like music, acting, I feel like there's a few industries like that there's no limit of the sheer volume of people that are trying to make it big in those industries, where the talent pool, like if you try to come in and compete on talent, you will lose.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's like you walk into a random bar here in Nashville, on any bar, like within a 2-mile radius of this exact place that we're staying at right now, any bar, like the talent level that's behind the microphone is better than half of the people that are famous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the people that are
I know. I walk in there and I'm like, what am I doing? I suck so badly.
That would be the only thing that would give me hope, is hearing how good those people are.
Oh, man.
Frankly, because like you go to a live show from somebody, again, that's super famous, that's sold tens of millions of albums or singles or whatever, and it's like, you kind of suck.
Yeah,
live, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's so clear to me that it's a relationship-based business, because it doesn't matter. As long as you have a base level of talent, charisma, ambition, like you can perform, you have something attractive about your personality, like there's something there. If you know the right people, that is the formula. To me, it seems, as an outsider, and again, I don't know the space as well as you do, but it seems to me because of the sheer volume of talent, like I'll go into some of these bars and hear somebody sing, I'm like, damn, they are good.
Crushing
very good at like the instrument that they're playing. Their voice is amazing and unique. And it's like,
they know how to work the crowd. They're just like experts.
They're performers. Yeah. And it's clearly not just a talent thing.
No.
It absolutely isn't. It's a combination of talent. It's a combination of hard work. But ultimately, the only thing, like, if talent is in abundance and hard work is in abundance, the only thing that's in scarcity is relationships.
Yeah.
With the people that can put you on to the right opportunities.
Right.
You know what I mean? The relationships are the only things in scarcity. Like, that would be where people should be spending most of their time.
Yeah, and it goes back to like you said, creating those relationships, and being okay to show up at places that maybe you wouldn't normally go.
Right.
Right. And even when it comes to writing too, something that I've learned is you're sitting in a room with someone for 4 hours. You better be an enjoyable person to be around. Like,
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So when you talk about writing, is go in there, be nice, like be chill, be cool, like just kind of have your personable skills, unlocked.
Where they're going to want to book another session.
Where they're going to want, they're not going to be like, God, I just spent 4 hours with this person and it was just brutal. Like, what an energy suck, you know what I mean? Right. And it's just like, you have to just go in there and like, just be a good human being. Yeah. And a lot of the times it's going to work out well for you. But if you go in there too big for your britches and hot and whatever, you're not going to get called back in that room.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I want to talk about podcasting, because that's what I do. And I know that you did it for a long time, and you currently do not have a show running.
I don't, but I'm starting one here in like next week.
Oh,
much.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so the itch is still there then.
Oh, yeah.
That was what I was going to ask.
The itch is there.
Okay. What have you enjoyed about podcasting? What have you not enjoyed about podcasting? I
enjoyed sitting down and talking to people, and you get like I'm not on my phone.
Yeah.
My intention is here with you. We're actually having a real conversation. And so I think I really enjoy just doing that. And you get to go deep a lot of the times. Yeah. It's not just this superficial kind of like chit chat here and there. What's the weather doing? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm actually very curious, like you said, about people. And so being able to sit there and just learn what makes them tick and what makes them different and what makes them have a unique story was always really intriguing to me. And my podcast was True Sex and Wild Love. And we talked about very controversial topics that people would shy away from most of the time.
Yeah.
And I love that too, because it challenges people, and it challenges people to think outside of the box and I wanted to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To see, okay, what's underneath that? And like, can you think from a different perspective without being so judgmental? And I loved that. That was so much fun. What I didn't like is I don't like to do all the back end stuff. Like, like the nitty gritty, post it here, do this here, do show notes. Like, I don't like to do that.
Yeah.
But towards the end, I hired somebody, which made it much more.
I was gonna say, there's people
obviously,
for that.
Yeah, exactly. So now, like, people like, y'all can help out. Now that I'm gonna launch my new show is I know what I want to do and I know what I don't want to do.
What's the new show?
It's just the Whitney Miller podcast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just keeping it simple. I'm not trying to think about it too much. I want to talk about the topics that I want to talk about and not narrow myself in so much, because maybe this is something that, you guys have felt too, is I feel like there's such a narrative around your niche and like making sure you're in that. Otherwise you can be too broad. And that's been something that's been challenging for me my whole life is I'm not one thing. I don't have a niche, like I'll be this niche for a minute, but then I'm definitely going to go do these 14 other things, and so I've always just been more of a broad person. Yeah. And that was one thing with True Sex and Wild Love. I love talking about love, sex, and relationships, but I wanted to talk about other things too.
Sure.
It got to a point where I was like, can we just maybe talk about some fitness stuff? Or like, I got my Botox the other day. Can we talk about Botox? Like certain things like that. And so that's why I'm really excited about just to broaden it and just have another aspect of my brand as Whitney Miller and speak openly on the things that I want to talk about.
Are you going to do mostly solo shows or
No, mostly guests.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet.
I like to do guests.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the podcast for me has been like my number one hack for building relationships with people that I never thought would actually spend any time with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just what we're talking about, being in Nashville with all the access to people that you have here, there is literally no better way to be like, hey, I met that producer that one night at that bar and we talked for a second and I can connect with her on Instagram, but we don't really know each other that well.
Right.
Hey, want to do an episode of my podcast?
Or you can come and sit in my living room for an hour and we can really get to know each other,
Right. Like it's not an ask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you get asked to do somebody's podcast, it's not like hey, let's jump on a sales call because I have something to sell you.
Yeah.
It's like hey, let's have a conversation for an hour and let me post it to my audience.
So I can share your story.
Right.
Like I'm interested in
highlight you.
Right.
Exactly. And then throughout the conversation, you build rapport. They find out more things about you. Like to me, that would be like the perfect thing here. It's like, how do I make instant tiny connections with people out and about and then immediately get them into my podcast?
Right.
Let's have an hour conversation next.
Yeah. And it just kind of like solidifies them into your world, which is very cool.
Yep. And you get to highlight them, make them look awesome, talk about them for a long period of time.
Well, that's the thing when it comes to relationships for people who don't have a podcast or anything, like people like to talk about themselves most of the time. So if you're sitting there talking about yourself the entire time, stop.
Yeah.
And start to get curious about the other person and ask them questions and see like where you guys can relate to each other, see where you guys have differences. I mean, that's what building a relationship is at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the quality of your life and the quality of relationships is highly dependent on the quality of the questions that you can ask people, I think.
Yeah.
And the quality of questions you can ask yourself even. But yes, to your point, that's why the podcast is a perfect vehicle. I tell people all the time, like, even if you don't publish the episodes, or even if 0 people listen, you get 3 listeners an episode, who cares?
I think expect that.
Vehicle.
Expect it at the beginning.
Expect it. Yeah, exactly. But don't let it stop you from doing it because the relationships are so valuable.
Yeah.
From it.
Wild. That's huge. I have I've never thought about it that way, because people ask me like, how do I start a podcast, or what should I do, you know? And I'm usually like, expect it to be more work than it is, and expect no one to listen to it for a while.
Totally.
And if you want to do it because you want to make money, don't.
100%. Yeah. If the goal is to become the next Joe Rogan, which is like, you know, we help a lot of podcasters, and that's always the line. It's like, oh, I just want to do something like Joe Rogan. Like, okay, stop right there. It's like,
so you want to be
it's
like,
not going to happen.
Bigger than the president of the United States?
Yeah,
Is that what
right.
you're saying?
Yeah. So you want to bullshit with your buddies. Like, the problem is like, you and your buddies aren't that interesting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Joe Rogan is an interesting dude who has a lot of interesting friends. So
who has a very interesting past because he's done so many different things.
Exactly.
You know?
And he started it when there were like 1,000 podcasts in existence. You know, so let's erase that. Let's start over. Like, you're not going to be Joe Rogan. How do we do something different here?
Really,
you know what I mean?
no.
Yeah, I know. I shatter their dreams.
It's interesting because here, musicians don't really have podcasts.
That's wild to me.
It's very rare that you see an artist that has a podcast.
Now that you mention it, that is very true.
Right?
Why
and
is
I don't know. I don't know if it's because they don't feel comfortable in this medium. They don't feel comfortable interviewing other people.
Yeah.
Or it's not something that they're interested in doing. I really don't know. That was one of the reasons I'm like,
blue ocean opportunity for you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, shoot, I already have the experience of running a podcast. I know how to do it. I like to do it. And really no other artist is doing it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I found there's so much value in skill stacking. It's like one skill or two skills maybe by themselves are valuable, but then when you put them on top of each other, it starts to add a lot of value.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's like, well, there's a lot of musicians here. You know, there's a lot of podcasters in Austin or LA or whatever, but there's not a lot of musicians. But there's a lot of musicians here. There's not a lot of podcasters. So like, well, I'm pretty good at this thing and I'm pretty good at this thing. But when we combine them and put them in one thing, it's like, now I'm really good because I'm the only one doing both of these things. It's like sometimes to niche down, you got to niche up and like, and grab 3 or 4 things and stack them onto each other. And then you can be the person that introduces all these other people to this medium that actually, you know, promotes success.
Exactly.
You know?
I also see it as, going back to Gary Vee, we were talking about, you know, like when people are starting these different arts, like niche up, like you were just saying, is like your brand equity. Is like building your own brand equity in yourself. And so I do see me as, you know, eventually I'm going to write a book. So that's going to build my brand equity. Starting another podcast, that's continuing to build the brand equity there. And so it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to make any money off my podcast ever. I have no idea. I hope so at some point, but at the end of the day, I'm building more of a brand of who Whitney is, which I think in turn will only support what I want to do with my life.
Absolutely. And it helps with literally everything else. That's why it's crazy. And now that you're saying that, I can't think of any, but it's crazy that there's not a lot of musicians that have them, because it's like the perfect self-promotion vehicle.
I also, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just wondering too, if because record labels have such a hand in everything people say and do, and the persona that's put out to the public, I wonder if podcasting is just too off the cuff a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking this through.
Because I know that like the WWE and stuff like that is very much that way, where like if you want to get in, you have to go through like 3 different layers of corporate bullshit before you can get somebody even on your show. And like none of them have their own shows, you know. So it's like maybe it could be similar to that, where they want to own the IP so much that they aren't willing to, like, hey, we made you famous, we don't want you making money outside of us type of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that might be smaller. There's something going on why artists don't want to do it or don't think about doing it.
But you're going to do it. So
yay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start that trend.
We'll experiment.
Yeah.
Let me know how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have you come on and talk about business and podcasting. We'll just basically have the same conversation.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just release this episode on your podcast.
Exactly.
Whitney, this has been a lot of fun. I don't want to take up too much time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. Before we get going, how can everybody go find out more about what you got going on?
I am Wit in Love on all my social platforms, which is probably going to change. I'm trying to get Whitney Miller. Maybe that girl will hear me and give me her Instagram handle. It would really help me out.
You DM'd her and
I
nothing?
did, yes. Okay. I got denied. I didn't get denied. She didn't care about me. She ignored my message.
Thanks a lot, Whitney Miller.
Yeah, Whitney Miller, geez. But no, so I'm like going through the process of like trying to figure out what that's going to be. But as of right now, it's Whit in Love, WHITN LOVE. And then my 2 singles, Diamond Country and 15 Minutes of Fame, are on all streaming platforms right now. I'm going to be releasing new music every 4 weeks. So I don't know when this will come out, but I'll have a new song out here in a month. Three weeks or so. Yeah. That's that pedal to the metal. I'm going to be really tired. Right. But we're going for it. And then you can check me out at whitneymillermusic.com.
Perfect. whitneymillermusic.com. Please go check out some of the stuff that Whitney's got going on, guys. I know that you will absolutely not regret it. Whitney, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Of course.